Hi folks, welcome to Crisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary, and not your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Crisco's Corner. One of the rare appearances on my channel here is CNN Politics. It's concerning the new Georgia voting law. Now, this metal pygmy, Senator Warnock, I'll call him Senator. He's a sitting senator. I'll show respect for that. We will not be worn down. What a crap. Yeah, I'm so mad I can't even talk straight. What a crock of crap. Now, inadvertently, CNN actually told the truth, but at the same time lied. Let's carry on with this. I'm hoping this episode isn't too long, but bear with me if it is. The new Georgia elections law signed by Republican Governor Brian Kemp this last week has prompted lawsuits from civil rights group, a shock denunciation from President Joe Biden, and calls for business to take action against the state. Oh, my God, my God. Oh, Republican opponents of the lawsuit, the critics who accuse them of voter suppression are mischaracterizing both their intentions and the key provisions of the law. So what are Republicans going to learn? It doesn't matter what part of the country it is anymore. It used to matter. You can't deal with these people in good faith. As Tucker Carlson said the other night, you can't be decent to people that hate you. They claim the law not only makes Georgia elections more secure, but it expands access to voting. And it does. That's highly misleading at best. No, not at all. See, they're supposed to report the news. This is an opinion piece. As critics have correctly said, the law imposes significant new obstacles to voting. There's no new obstacles. See, here's what they did. Here's what these twisted, evil people did. Before COVID in Georgia, the voting laws were this, and this. They changed the voting laws a lot of the time, a lot of these states, including PA, without the consent of the legislature. But I believe, at least in Georgia, they got the legislature's consent because Republicans everywhere are spineless. That's neither here nor there. Because of the pandemic, they expanded them greatly. Thus, in my mind, I have to be careful here because this subject is like taboo on YouTube. It left security holes all over the place. They're talking about the new law, how it relates to the restrictions lifted for voting during COVID in a pandemic. That's the lie. That was emergency things done by the legislature and the governors of these states, including Georgia in this case, to get around during a pandemic. The pandemic is going to be breaking up pretty soon. In fact, in the South, a lot of it's gone for all intents and purposes. And this coming November is a long way off. 8 more months. They're talking about the laws changed for COVID. And that's the lie. Is not telling the whole truth the same as lying? Yeah, most of the time. Let's get back to the story. It also gives the Republican-controlled state government new power to assert control over the conduct of elections in Democrat counties. That's the other lie. What happens when the state, and someday it will, I'm sure, they flip back and forth, a lot of them, and Georgia's getting more purple by the minute. What happens when the Democrats control the state government? Is this paragraph going to read, Democrats control state government, new power, assert control over the Republican counties? Of course they won't. This is where they lie. This is why CNN is worth tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars less than it was a couple of years ago. Because they lie and they're losing their audience by the millions. The law does, however, contain some provisions that can be reasonably be described as pro-voting, and critics have not always described all the text accurately. So at the same time, they say these evil Republicans, and at the same time we say, well, you know, some of the progressive morons are wrong too. What a balanced piece. Well, it does, however, contain some provisions. Let's continue on. There is an explanation of some, though far from all, changes made by the 98-page law. Our research was assisted by the work of Georgia Public Broadcasting political reporter, there's an unbiased source, who published a thorough explanator on Saturday. The new law removes the Georgia Secretary of State as the chair of the state elections boards. Former President Trump and other Republicans have attacked the current Republican Secretary of State for refusing to accommodate Trump's baseless claims about the 2020 election. I think Tack's a little strong. Yeah, he was mad. And I won't go into the details about that because here on YouTube, you get censored. I think you know what I mean. Instead, the law states that the state legislature has been under unified Republican control since 2005, appointed nonpartisan board chair of the board. What happens when it's a Democrat state? They appoint a nonpartisan chair of the board, at least under the law, in theory. Under the law, if a majority of the 5-member board decides that a county's elections officials have been doing their job poorly, the board can suspend those officials and replace it with one person the board has handpicked to serve as temporary superintendent with the same powers the officials had. I don't care for that, but it's not. I'm not really outraged by it. The new law allows the state board to sideline election officials in up to 4 counties at a time. A majority of the board will have to decide that the officials demonstrated nonfeasance, malfeasance, or gross negligence in at least 2 elections over a 2-year period, or that the county officials committed at least 3 violations of election law or board regulations in the last 2 general election cycles and did not suffer sufficiently remedied these violations. It sounds very... But you got to really do a lot of crap wrong in a row in order to get removed, in other words. Now, this is the part they're screaming about, and I don't understand. You know how many drop boxes there were before COVID? 2019? This many. None. The new law requires each Georgia county to have a minimum of 1 drop box for absentee ballots. In 2020, when drop boxes were used for the first time in Georgia, the boxes were authorized by special pandemic-related rules rather than by long-term legislations. So the truth is getting out. In other words, this was a temporary measure because of the pandemic. However, the new law also limits how many drop boxes each county can have, how many hours and days the boxes can be open, and where they can be located. Lie. Limits. There was no permanent legislation. It's limiting it from COVID, yeah, but not from the year before when there wasn't any. The law says that each county can't have more than 1 drop box for early voting site or per 100,000 active registered voters. I live in a city in upstate New York. There's 45,000 odd people. There's just 200,000 in the county. That's not so outrageous. The provision will dramatically reduce the number of drop boxes available in some large counties. Yeah, technically that's true if you go by the COVID regulations. That's where these guys are such SOBs. They're so dishonest. They're so deceitful. Fulton County, for example, says it will drop from 38 boxes in November election to 8. That's a lot. These guys want holes. They want security holes in the system. And I can't say what my opinion is as to why. I think you guys can figure it out. In addition, the law says that drop boxes need to be located in election offices or inside early voting locations. Absolutely. There's got to be some security. You just can't put them all over neighborhoods everywhere. Who's going to monitor them? And it says the boxes can only be available during the hours the early voting is available. Of course. If the governor declares an emergency, the boxes can be located outdoors. Okay. Like if there's another pandemic, God forbid. In 2020, drop boxes can be located outside, available 24 hours a day, and open until the evening of Election Day. Yeah, this everywhere all over the counties in Georgia, unmonitored, unchecked. These guys want holes, and we all can figure out why they want holes in the security system. There was extensive media coverage of the initial Republican proposals to sharply reduce early voting on Sundays when some black churchgoers participated in Souls to the Polls voting drives. However, these proposals did not make it to the final bill Kemp signed. which actually ends up expanding early voting in many counties for primaries and general elections. Expanding early voting. I think that was a concession the Republicans didn't make because these guys think that they're dealing with these Democrats in good faith. Under the weekend provisions of the previous law, counties had to open for early voting on only one Saturday during primaries, and they continue on all the reasons why for early voting and time periods for it. And there's one-offs, which I'm not going to get into.